Arizona, where ancient cities lie buried, outlaws ruled the streets, and some swear aliens landed. This is the wildest history you were never told, and it all started with a civilization that vanished without a trace. Whispers of stone and spirit, Arizona's forgotten dawn. Long before Arizona bore its name, before maps dared sketch its deserts, ancient civilizations carved their souls into the stone, Hohokam canals winding like veins through dust, Mogollon dreams echoing from caves, and ancestral Puebloan dwellings perched like secrets on cliffs. Their whispers remain, painted on rocks, etched in ruins, timeless. Then came the outsiders. In 1539, Spanish friar Marcos de Niza glimpsed their world, chasing golden legends into the sun-scorched unknown. Coronado's men followed, hungry for Cebola's phantom cities, but found only echoes. Yet amid the silence, one man, Father Kino, planted missions, sowed faith, and etched new paths in the sand. The Spanish left presidios behind, like bones of ambition in Tubac and Tucson. Beneath it all, the land remembers, the mystery, the reverence, the ancient pulse of Arizona's hidden heart. Blood and borders, the reforging of Arizona. As Spain's empire crumbled in 1821, Arizona passed quietly into the hands of Mexico, a remote jewel of Nueva California where mestizo and Spanish bloodlines still clung to adobe roots and sunsplit traditions. But the calm would not last. In the storm of the Mexican-American War, U.S. troops marched into the heart of Mexico, and with the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, seized Arizona's fate for $15 million and a promise of preserved rights, promises that often faded like ink in the desert sun. The land shifted again in 1853 with the Gadsden Purchase, a quiet deal struck for steel and rails, opening the door to America's future railroads, and its battles. By 1862, the Confederate States carved the territory of Arizona from the southern soil, its men riding under a new banner, even as the Union loomed to the north. In the unforgiving sands of Picacho Pass, the Civil War's westernmost shots rang out, brief and brutal, echoing across a land torn between nations, names and identities. Arizona, claimed, bought, and bled for, emerged not as a conquest, but as a crucible of conflict and change. Forged in gold and politics, the naming of Arizona. In the heart of a nation at war with itself, far from the thundering cannons of the East, a new territory was quietly carved from the western wilds of New Mexico. On February 24, 1863, amidst political turbulence and dreams of destiny, the U.S. government declared the Arizona Territory, its name chosen from myth and meaning, bypassing poetic contenders like Montezuma and Gadsonia. Prescott rose first, born of gold fever and frontier grit, only to be dethroned as the capital passed like a crown, from Tucson's desert stronghold, back to Prescott's pine-covered heights, and finally to the sun-drenched basin of Phoenix. Each move stirred tensions, reflecting a land growing restless and diverse, pulled between miners, ranchers and politicians staking claims not only to land but to power. Arizona's name, at once ancient and newly born, echoed with the legacy of its native roots and the ambition of a nation still defining its borders, and itself. Saints, silver, and the shadows of the Copper State. As Arizona's sun scorched down on a land of promise and peril, waves of faith and fortune seekers surged in. Led by Prophet Brigham Young, Mormon pioneers carved order from wilderness, raising towns like Mesa and Snowflake with prayer, perseverance, and plows. Meanwhile, a different pilgrimage thundered in. Miners driven by the glint of gold and the lure of silver flooded the territory, turning Tombstone into a frontier legend where outlaws drew guns and lawmen drew lines in the dust. But it was copper, buried deep in the red rock veins of Bisbee and Jerome, that would crown Arizona, the Copper State. Its mines pulsed with life, even as boom towns withered into ghostly echoes. Yet, beneath the riches, unrest brewed. In 1917, the fiery heart of labor rebellion erupted in Bisbee, where striking miners were rounded up and deported. A grim reminder that even in prosperity, Arizona's soul was forged in struggle, sacrifice, and the unyielding weight of ambition. From war dust to desert dreams, Arizona's modern awakening. As revolution raged just beyond its southern border, Arizona stood at a volatile crossroads in the early 20th century. The echoes of Mexico's civil unrest spilled into its deserts, drawing Arizonans into battles that blurred the line between nations, culminating in the fierce 1918 Battle of Ambos Nogales and a final, forgotten clash with the Yaqui, marking the end of the centuries-long American Indian Wars. Yet amid gunfire and unrest, a new identity took shape. On Valentine's Day 1912, Arizona became the 48th star on the American flag, the last piece of the continental puzzle. The Great Depression would soon cast shadows over its copper mines and cotton fields, but the sun-soaked promise of the Old West began to charm a new kind of seeker. Tourists arrived, drawn by dude ranches, sweeping desert skies, and the rugged romance of frontier legends. Grand resorts like the Arizona Biltmore and the Wigwam shimmered into existence, planting the seeds of a thriving industry. Arizona, once carved by conflict, was now reimagining itself, not just as a state, but as a destination where myth met modernity. Heat, hardship, and hope, Arizona's war within. In the crucible of World War II, Arizona became a battleground not of bombs but of conscience. Beneath its blazing skies, it housed both the captors and the captive, German POWs confined near Phoenix, and Japanese-American families imprisoned in internment camps like the one on Mount Lemmon, torn from their homes by wartime hysteria. But the scars of injustice ran deeper. At the Phoenix Indian School, Native American children were stripped of language, culture, and identity in the name of assimilation. Yet out of this long history of suppression, a new voice began to rise. Native soldiers returned from the war not as victims, but as veterans, and they demanded change. When Maricopa County denied them the right to vote, Frank Harrison and Harry Austin fought back, and in 1948 they won. Arizona's deserts, once marked by silence and injustice, began to pulse with progress. As air conditioning tamed the summer infernos, millions flocked to its cities. From a population under 300,000 in 1910 to nearly 2 million by 1970, Arizona transformed. Its growth fueled not just by innovation, but by the unyielding spirit of those who refused to be forgotten. Sunsets and storms, Arizona's twilight transformation. As the sun set on the 20th century, Arizona reinvented itself yet again, not with gold or copper but with golden years. In the 1960s, it welcomed a new wave of pioneers, retirees fleeing icy northern winters in search of sun and serenity. Places like Sun City and Green Valley rose from the desert, crafted as havens for the aging, where time slowed under warm skies and the term snowbird became a badge of seasonal migration. Yet even in this era of gentle reinvention, Arizona found itself at the center of historic firsts and fierce controversies. In 2000, it boldly held the world's first legally binding online election, thrusting its cactus-lined corridors into the digital future. But the 21st century also stirred darker winds. Immigration laws like SB 1070 ignited national debate, while the tragic 2011 shooting of Congresswoman Gabby Giffords shook the soul of Tucson and the nation. Through sunshine and sorrow, Arizona has remained a land of contrasts, where warm winter retreats coexist with scorching political firestorms, and where each chapter, like the desert itself, is etched in both beauty and resilience. Today, Arizona is a land of contrasts, where ancient ruins sit beside billion-dollar tech cities. But its past is still written in the desert. What's the wildest Arizona fact you know? Drop it in the comments.